Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum and a very warm welcome to World this morning. I am your host Hajra, Satti, and today happens to be a fine Monday morning in Islamabad. We are witnessing some sort of a cloudy weather and there's a transition towards a rain or a thunderstorm. So new rain spells begins today in the parts of the country. According to Met Office, a shallow westerly wave has entered the northern parts of the country last night and is expected to strengthen from March 12th, persisting until March 16th. Rain, wind and thunder showers with snowfall are likely at the isolated locations in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Kashmir, GB, Upper Punjab and Islamabad. Hailstorms may also occur in Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Upper Punjab, Islamabad and Kashmir. Dry and partly cloudy weather is expected elsewhere in the country. Moderate to heavy rainfall and snowfall may lead to load closures and slippery conditions in the areas such as Mari, Galiat, Naran, Kaghan, Chitral, Dir and Sawat. And make sure that you enjoy this weather, but also make sure that your commute is according to the weather conditions, because in such sort of weather conditions we might expect some sort of delays on the road. But now we will move on to another very interesting topic, and that is related to the sports. And in our program I continuously advocate for the play-based childhood. I continuously advocate that how much sports, specifically physical activity, is integral to our childhood, and especially in channelizing our youth into a more positive and productive aspect of their energies. So in order to unfold this conversation, what sort of development initiatives are taken by the government in the arena of sports, I'm very glad that I've been joined by Faisal Ayub Khokhar Saab, who happens to be Minister for Sports, Labour and Human Resources in Punjab. Assalamu alaikum Faisal Saab, and thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, Hajra. It's my pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Faisal Saab, it's an absolute pleasure. Ramadan Mubarak to you. I hope you are enjoying your rosas. But now let's unfold this conversation on the very wonderful initiatives that a government is doing, particularly you are doing in this arena. Please, would you mind enumerating some of them?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, Hajra. Actually, Punjab government is very serious about sports right now, especially the Chief Minister. As you can recall, in the first speech of the Chief Minister, she was very serious about the youth and the sports. I think I would like to add that sports, not just as the fun part of the game, but I think on the medical part as well. If we try hard and improve our sports, I think our hospitals will be empty. We would need less to spend on our medicines, our hospitals and stuff. So I think, Alhamdulillah, Punjab government is very keen and very helpful in the sports right now. I would mention that I think in the past 7 decades, it's the first time Punjab has spent so much on sports, especially on both sides, on the infrastructure side and also on the talent hunting. To your knowledge, I think 52 new sports complexes are being built right now in Punjab. 52. And I think it's a multi-purpose sports complexes which will have everything you can call, just like any Western country you can name, Canada or America, the sports facilities we can have. Punjab is going through a revolution in sports right now. So I think billions, more than 7 to 8 billion rupees was given as a budget to improve the infrastructure this year. And we had beautiful structures in the past as well. We had structures, but they needed good rehabilitation, and almost close to 60 sports facilities are being rehabilitated right now. So this is just the infrastructure part. We also had the highest and I think the biggest talent hunt program in the province right now, which was the Khelta Punjab. You would be astonished that almost 120,000 athletes participated in Khelta Punjab. I would just like to take 1 minute explaining what Khelta Punjab was. Basically, I always knew that Punjab had talent. There is nothing like Punjab did not have talent, and Pakistan is always full of talent. But we needed a talent hunt program through the grassroots levels. And you would be amazed that 120,000 people participated in inter-district and inter-provincial level. And finally, the finals coming through Lahore. And there were like more than 16,000 clubs participating in Khelta Punjab. And we had finalists coming over to Lahore. More than 2,000 finalists came to Lahore. And not just that, it was not just an event. Basically, it was a talent hunt program. So the gold medalist who became the champions in the Khelta Punjab games with more than 15 different disciplines, hockey, volleyball, badminton, so many games. And whoever became the champion, the government of Punjab started to retain them as their assets. And we are actually supporting them through our program, which we called the Sports Endowment Fund, which is the first time in the province. The Chief Minister basically gave 2 billion rupees as Sports Endowment Fund.
Faisal Sahab, I would like to interject you here, and I would like you to further elaborate on your talent hunt program, which you mentioned is a Khelta Punjab initiative, right? So can you draw on the specifics of that? For example, in which particular sports arena are you focusing on the talent hunt program? And like you mentioned, there's no dearth of talent within Pakistan or within Punjab for that matter. So are we focusing on only cricket, or are we enlarging the scope? Which particular sports are we focusing on? And when we talk about polishing the talent, what is the procedure through which you are going to go for this talent hunt and go for the selection of that talent?
That's a wonderful question. First of all, as a policy, the government of Punjab has made a policy, you can make like unofficial policy, that any program or any event that the government of Punjab, the Ministry of Sports will do, will not just be an event. It will be a result of the best talent hunt program. So may it be the first ever Pink Games, which had numerous women athletes participating, or may it be Khelta Punjab, any event would be a result of the talent hunt program. So when I mean a talent hunt program, I mean 15 different games, not just cricket, because you know that cricket is something that is being played in streets as well. So everybody's into cricket. So my main focus was the different games, especially the traditional games of Punjab as well. You can call it kabaddi. So we are spending more on kabaddi as well. We are bringing back that talent, the kabaddi back. We are bringing back the lost pride of hockey. Like Punjab and Pakistan had a pride in hockey. We lost that pride in the past 2 decades, I can call. So we are working on the hockey as well. We are especially working on squash. We had players like Jahangir Khan, and that's just, I think when I was too young to recall that. So we did not make new players in squash as well. So we are bringing back squash as well. We are making I think the largest ever squash complex in Pakistan right now as well. So we're working on squash, we're working on hockey, we're working on table tennis, we're working on basketball, many games. Like I think.
Yes, that's very wonderful, and I really appreciate your efforts in putting out so much energy and making sure that we are polishing our youth talent in terms of sports. But I would also want you to explore the concept of the Sports Endowment Fund. And when we talk about polishing the talent, are you looking for that talent in universities, in schools and colleges, or what about the public spaces? Because we see a lot of young people, younger kids, they are just playing the cricket or any other sports within those public spaces. So how are you going to integrate that, and how you're going to execute this wonderful scheme?
Hajra, actually we are working on both things. Like you mentioned, there are two elements of that. One is we have talent inside the schools and colleges. So for the schools and colleges, we are having inter-school competitions, we are having inter-college competitions. So there are, when the competitions are going on, we have a special panel of veterans, and it's a collaboration of a sports panel, which sits while the games are going on, and whoever performs well, the panel selects that team or that player, and we retain that player as our asset of the government of Punjab, and we start supporting them on the monthly basis, because there has always been this tragedy, like we have players, but they do not have the financial support. So they have to let go of the sports because they have to support their families, and this issue continues. So to help that, to cater that, this sports endowment fund was integrated into the sports ministry. So with this sports endowment fund, we retain those players because I think the talent is on the initial level, on the school levels we have. Not just that, you also mentioned the talent is in the streets as well. So to cater that, One was the education part, and one was
Right.
in the streets. So I think uh, we had district level, we had I think we had union council level matches as well, and our
Wonderful.
teams had camps over there. My panel was sitting over there to select the players in those streets as well. We did not miss any opportunity, and I think there are more than hundreds of players by now. The government of Punjab has
Right.
retained, and
Right.
inshallah taala in the Olympics
Right.
to come.
Faisal Saab, we've seen that particularly the younger population, and not just younger population, I think this is a very manifestation of this digital era that we're all glued to the screens, right? And that excessive use of the screen is yielding some very bad repercussions out there. So you've also devised a very wonderful summer internship programs, right, or summer camps for the students or for the players. Would you mind elaborating on that? If someone wants to apply to that particular program or wants to be part of the program, how he or she can access that? And please also deliberate on the gender ratio within the sports. Is it specifically male dominated, or are you also encouraging the young girls to also go and join that?
To talk about which gender participates, I think when our government formed, the first ever Punjab Ping Games were held, and more than 1,300 women athletes participated. So it's not just male dominated. We have female athletes, I think more. And I think I would be glad to tell that, especially in basketball, we have more women talent in basketball. So we are catering both genders like just like any other Western country. And to specifically tell about the summer camp, you will be amazed to know that even my children participated in the summer camp this the previous year, and it was amazing. Like children from ages 5 years to 16 years, all of them participated, and we had amazing response. And actually, the summer camps were not just held in Lahore, but actually all of the 9 divisional headquarters of Punjab. So
Wonderful.
it's not just Lahore oriented. The summer camp was placed in all the divisional headquarters of Punjab, like Faisalabad, Rawalpindi, Lahore, and Bahawalpur, and we had an amazing response. So ages from 5 years to 16 years. Um, so we had amazing response, and you would be amazed to know that even the mothers participated. We had yoga classes for the mothers waiting for their children to participate in the summer camps. We had classes for their mothers as well. So it was enjoyment. It was a celebration, just like summer camps should have. So it was an amazing response.
Right. And Faisal Saab, also lastly, please also elaborate on your sports club reforms, right? Which particular reforms are we talking about? Are we speaking about the infrastructure? If it's not infrastructure, if we are talking about the execution, how we will go about it, how your government is making sure that those reforms also incorporate the grassroots talent, a very raw talent that is found on the streets and is utilized productively for the citizens of this country.
Basically, we formed a development of an online club or performance monitoring portal. So it's a portal which monitors different clubs throughout Punjab. And so basically, we wanted our associations to improve. We wanted our clubs to improve, because I always think that to improve any sort of sports in the country, the basic club level should improve. And because the talent is on the field, the talent is on the ground, and we started hunting talent from that level. So sports club reforms were very important. We needed the clubs to improve. So we actually started to finance those clubs as well. Like I specifically tried to go to their competitions. We often make different competitions going on through the clubs. So when the clubs competitions improve, the sports improves. So because it's and also a source of excellent source of retaining the talent that is in the fields that we are missing. So any sort of talent that we are missing, the clubs help us. So when the clubs improve, basically the sports throughout the Punjab improves.
Wonderful, Wonderful. Thank you so much, Faisal Saab, for sparing time from your very hectic and busy schedule and for illuminating us about all of this wonderful initiatives that you are doing. And indeed, I think polishing the talent of the younger people in regards in the domain of sports is a very, very essential and a must do. And I think when your state supports that in this wonderful initiative, that brings a lot of color and a push towards the talent. So now we will move on to another very interesting day, that is the Commonwealth Day. The Commonwealth Day is being observed annually on March 10th to celebrate the shared values, cultures and history of the nations that were the part of the Commonwealth and were once ruled by the Britain. Millions take part in the celebration in 56 member countries in Africa, Asia, Caribbean, America, Australia, New Zealand and Europe. Various events and activities are organized on this occasion, such as debates, flag hoisting ceremonies and cultural programs. This year's theme is Together We Thrive. And moving on to another very interesting International Day of Women Judges. The International Day of Women Judges is being observed today with the aim to the recognize and the leadership of women judges in promoting the equality of rule and law. The day highlights the role of women judges in strengthening the judiciary and judicial integrity. In the view of the importance of women representation in judiciary, there is a need to develop effective national strategies for the advancement of women in judicial justice system. And we cannot deny the importance that how much women play when, specifically when we talk about the dispensation of the justice. So now there's a very viral video of a Turkish imam who is seen playing with the kids. A heartwarming video has surfaced on the Instagram which shows a Turkish imam playing with children in a mosque. The man is seen playing hide and seek with the children and then running with them. The video has invited numerous responses with many people appreciating the Turkish imam's gesture. Many believe that men interaction with the children to help connect with the mosque and create a love in them for their place. And we've always seen mosques were not just the area or spaces for the worship, but they were always a community center since the inception of Islam in the modern, or I would say 7th century Arabia. And now moving on to another very, very interesting news, that is that the Ramadan crescent was perfectly aligned with the minaret of the green dome at Masjid Naqvi, and that photo was captured by a visitor in a very unique and a faith-enriching photos and videos during the holy month of Ramadan in Medina. In the visuals, Ramadan crescent can be seen perfectly aligned with the minaret of the green dome of Masjid Naqvi, a spectacle very rarely seen. The breathtaking video and photographers were uploaded on the social media and they have received numerous views and comments. And that is a very interesting conception. And now we will move on to another very interesting topic segment, and that is the concept of taqwa and tawheed through the conception or through the lens of Nehjul Balagha or through the sermons of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So in order to unfold this conversation, I'm very glad that I have been joined by Syed Ali Asdaq Naqvi. Assalamu alaikum Ali, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for having me.
So Ali, let's unfold this conversation. Imam Ali had a very amazing understanding of the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, or what does the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala means, right? Would you mind elaborating one of the sermons which talk about Tawheed, not in the numerical superiority of Allah Ta'ala, but in a more non-numerical superiority? How does he explains this concept that through to the analogy of the universe?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Imam Ali alayhi salam in many of his sermons, many of his talks has discussed the important issue of Tawheed, and he has related it to Taqwa as well. In one of the sermons in Nehjul Balagha, the first sermon, very famous sermon, he discusses Tawheed and he says, Awwaluddin ma'rifatuhu, the first step in religion is to know God. And ma'rifah, the word, it's different from ilm, because ilm is sort of knowledge, but ma'rifah is sort of an intimate gnosis, a sort of cognition of something. So the first step of religion is the ma'rifah, the gnosis of God, which is Tawheed, which he then continues and says, وَكَمَالُ مَعْرِفَتِهِ التَّصْدِيقُ بِهِ, and the perfection of gnosis is affirming God, and the perfection of affirmation is Tawheed. Tawheeduhu is what he says. Now, how he states that is nafyu sifati anhu. denying the attributes for God, denying any additional attributes, because that would necessitate a multiplicity within God, which would go against Tawheed, because Tawheed means unification. So unification would mean no sense of multiplicity or kathra, or sort of ta'addud, sort of different aspects, different attributes. So a perfect tawheed would be complete unification, complete simplicity, devoid of any plurality or multiplicity.
Right. So, Ali, I think Islam gave a very beautiful conception of taqwa, and that conception of taqwa is the ultimate barometer through which it is to be judged the character of someone. And obviously, Allah very clearly mentions in the Quran that it is the only discretion of Allah to judge people or to judge humans, right? And when we talk about the taqwa, so the concept of taqwa has relegated the lineage, the nasab, which is mentioned in Islam, ethnicity, superiority of race, of any particular gender. It is the taqwa, and it was because of this taqwa we see that there is such a high status and rank bestowed on Hazrat Bilal Razila Ta'ala Anhu, who was in the bonded slavery, who had a dark skin, but yet Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that I heard the footsteps of Bilal before me in Jannah, right? This was his status, this was his rank. Would you mind elaborating the correlation between taqwa and tawheed through the lens of the conception of Nehjul Balagha?
Sure. So as you highlighted earlier, in pre-Islamic society, people would value someone based on their lineage or their tribe or their race. This was something very important. And of course, these are things that you're born with. You don't acquire them. You have no determination in or say in what race you're born into. And there was very little upward mobility. Even in many societies today, you can find the caste system and other tribalistic or racist ideas. Now, the Quran very clearly has negated all of these concepts and established taqwa as the criteria by which someone is superior. As God says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noblest in the sight of God are those who have the most taqwa, right? And before that, it says, we have made you distinct tribes and nations so that lita'arafu, so that you may know one another. It was not so that you may be superior to one another, but it was merely so that you may know one another. And after this knowledge, you are able to determine who has the most taqwa, and then based on that, you judge someone. Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam has tied the concept of taqwa with the concept of tawheed very beautifully. For example, in one of his sermons, he says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي إِن قُلْتُمْ سَمِعَا وَإِنْ أَدْمَرْتُمْ عَلِمًا. That have taqwa of God, who, when you say something, when you utter something, he hears it. And when you hide something in your heart, he knows it. So having the perfect tawheed, having a clear concept of tawheed will enable a person to not only conceptually understand God as a unified reality, but also manifest that, reflect that in their actions. Because taqwa is, it's a very interesting word actually. It comes from the root word to mean protect or sort of save something from something, just as God says, "Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara." Protect yourself and your family from the hellfire, right? So Imam Ali alayhi salam is also pointing to the same reality, that it is the esoteric dimension of man that is important, not the exoteric, the outward dimension, but the esoteric, the inward, the batin, which is what determines whether a person is superior or not. As it is also mentioned in the hadith, that God does not look at your faces or your wealth, he looks at your hearts. As God also says in the Quran, فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. The qalb is the seat of taqwa. Taqwa is found in the heart, not in the outward appearance, in the lineages as had been in pre-Islamic times.
True, Ali, and I think whenever we mention the concept of a qalb in Islam, it's very different from maybe the Western conception of it. So, qalb can be roughly translated to as heart in maybe in English language, but in Islam or in the studies of Ma'arif or Gnosis, qalb is more than that. It just not regulates the bodily function, it also connects us with our initial innate goodness or the fitrah, and it also connects us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So what function does qalb plays in the Tawheed, in the conception of the Tawheed, and how does Imam Ali explains that in his sermons in Nehjul Balagha?
Important question. So with Tawheed, or with the Islamic faith, of course, everybody knows that we give the Shahada, the testimony, where we recognize, we affirm, we testify that there is no God but Allah. There is no deity, no person or no object worthy of worship except God. Now, how we give that testimony is not through observation through the eyes, because in the physical world, of course, whenever we give a testimony, it's through experience through the senses. But with the testimony of faith, the shahada, it's a testimony of the heart, of the qalb. And as you pointed out, the qalb is something deeper than the physical heart that we possess. It's something connected to the ruh, something connected to the fitrah. And this is what Imam Ali alayhi salam has also highlighted, that the maskan, the seat of the intellect, is in the qalb, is in the heart, which is also found in the Quran as well. So the qalb, in the statements of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and indeed in the statements of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, it is not merely the physical aspect, but it is the spiritual aspect of man, by which he knows, by which he testifies to faith, which is a sort of intimate experience, a sort of gnosis that is beyond the senses, and it is sometimes also beyond mere rationalization as well.
True. And I think we cannot deny the fact that that also involves the things that we cannot see, right? That can be seen through the eyes of the qalb, right? And that's a very beautiful concept. And I would also want you to please ruminate about this concept, which Imam Ali very eloquently describes in Nehjul Balagha about the Tawheed, the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, that, Allah Ta'ala is beyond our inferior intellect, right? And he's not confined to the time and space. He's awwal al-akhir, right? He was before the time was created, and he will be when the time will not be there. So how does this philosophical conception fits, and how can we explain that to some lay person who might not be philosophically that fertile to absorb such a advanced or very innate, I would say, concept of Tawheed?
So Imam Ali alayhi salam, in many of his sermons and many of his statements, he establishes two principles when it comes to God. One is divine justice, and one is divine unity or monotheism. He says in one of his statements, التوحيد أن لا تتوهموه والعدل أن لا تتهموه. So Tawheed, or unification or monotheism or oneness, is that you do not consider God in your imagination. You do not try to imagine God. And adl, or justice, is that you don't accuse God. And la tattahimu. There's no ittiham for God, right? So both of these are essential principles in the teachings of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he has discussed Tawheed. So because in the Quran it says, La tudrikuhu al-absar wa huwa yudriku al-absar. God is not seen by the eyesight, by the sight, but he has idrak, he senses all sight. So now in one of the statements of the Imams alayhi salam, it also says that the awham, the imaginations, go further than the eyesight, because the eyesight can only see what is in the physical world, but imaginations can sometimes be endless. Now, if imaginations cannot contain God, then of course eyesight, being even more limited than imagination, cannot contain God. God is transcendent, beyond space, beyond time. He is not a body. He does not have body parts, as Imam Ali alayhi salam explains. He does not have a plurality. And of course, when you apply, coming back to taqwa as well, when you apply that in the physical world, you see that tawheed, that unification, where you don't try to distinguish, or you don't try to discriminate amongst people. You don't try to cause divisions, you try to cause unity. Just as there is a unity when it comes to God, there should be a unity when it comes to humans. And of course, justice as well. Just as God is just, he commands us to be just.
absolutely. And I think this is such a wonderful thing to explain. So now, Ali, one last question before I wrap up this segment, and that is the first racist to, in the Islamic history to disgrace himself was Iblis, right? And he said that I'm not going to bow before the Adam alayhi salam. Why? Because he's inferior in the creation and I'm more superior. He's made from the soil and I'm made from the fire. And we see that this conception of racism still survives. It is very much dominant ideology, and people do distinguish other based on the particular race. So why do you think we as a Muslim, we have failed to conceptualize Nehjul Balagha, apart from being a book which teaches us about the religion, as maybe, the book of humanities, where, for example, in the West, we often read about the Confucius, right, in terms of humanities, but we have failed to popularize Nehjul Balagha as a book of humanities. When we talk about self-accountability, who we need to revert back to look after this failure?
Now, coming to Iblis first, as you highlighted very clearly and very correctly, that he can accurately be called the first racist when he says, "Khalaqtani min narin wa khalaqtahu min teen." Why aren't you bowing down to Adam? He was asked. He replied that you created me from fire, you created him from clay. Now, for him, the outward, the exoteric, as I mentioned, was superior to the esoteric. Now, the Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, in one of his statements, he says, "Law qasa nuriyatu Adam bi nuriyati nar la arafa fadla ma bayna nurayn." If he had compared, instead of the material, the physical, if he had compared the luminosity, the radiance of Adam to the radiance of the fire, he would have known the distinction, the virtue, which was much virtuous amongst the two lights, right? So now, this is the problem, that we have started to value the world, the outward, the what is like the wealth and status. These things have become of primary concern to us instead of the inward, looking within, trying to do tazkiyah, trying to do tasfiyah, trying to cleanse the heart. Whereas Imam, as you coming back to the other topic of the sort of humanity taught in Nehjul Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam has negated all of this. Instead of this, "An-nasu sinfan, imma akhun laka fid din or nadirun laka fil khalq," a very famous statement from his, that people are of two categories. Either they are a brother to you in religion, or they are equal to you in humanity or creation. Now, both of these things tie back to Tawhid, because religion is from God. Tawhid necessitates religion, right? And creation is also from God. So both of those things tie back to God. Now, the disease of Iblis was arrogance. The cure of that is Tawheed, and that manifested, implemented in the real world, that reified, is in Taqwa. Now, Nehjul Balagha has been recognized by many scholars as a book that teaches, that promotes humanity, as the famous Christian Lebanese author George Jardaq in his book Sawt al-Adalat al-Insaniya.
Right. Ali, we're really short on time, and I'm really sorry that we have to cut short this segment, but inshallah we will save this debate for tomorrow, and we will talk about, how we have failed as a Muslim community to popularize Nehjul Balagha as a book of humanities. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for enlightening your views to our viewers out there and explaining these very in-depth concept of Tawheed and Taqwa, and that through from the lens of Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. Now we have introduced a very interesting segment, and that is that we are going to take a look in how different countries or different areas or different communities are celebrating Ramadan. So today we are going to give a sneak peek into the Egypt, and we are going to see that how Egypt is celebrating Ramadan. The holy month of Ramadan is being observed with much devotion and enthusiasm in Egypt. Spiritual feel prevails in the entire country. The holy month promotes communal harmony and unity, which is seen in that part of the Egypt. Mosques are decorated and lit up with the colorful lights, and food stalls are set up. Special arrangements are made for the iftar gatherings, and food is distributed among the needy. Entire families visit the mosque to break their fast and offer the Tarawih prayers. And we can see that, iftari or Ramadan always brings out the best in us in terms of the community. And now we are going to move on to another very interesting segment that we have introduced, which is Cooking Conundrum Aaj Kya Pakao. So in order to resolve this crisis, now we have taken the recipe from Durre Samin, and she is going to show us a very interesting liquidy form of the consumption, or the smoothie I would like to say, and how it is made. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that.
आपके पास cucumber cooler की रेसिपी है. This drink has only 5 calories and I am sure you will love to add this drink to your iftar table. Blend all the ingredients cucumber, mint leaves, ginger, lemon juice and pink salt. अब इस मिक्सचर को विदाउट स्ट्रेनिंग ग्लास में निकाल लें और स्वीटनर के लिए इसमें मैंने स्टीविया ऐड किया. लास्ट स्टेप में आपने इसमें चिल्ड वाटर ऐड करना है. इफ यू लव माय जीरो शुगर एंड सोडा फ्री रेसिपी देन फॉलो माय पेज फॉर मोर रमदान वेट लॉस रेसिपीज. आपके पास कुकम्बर कूलर की रेसिपी है. दिस ड्रिंक हैज ओनली 5 कैलोरीज एंड आई एम श्योर यू विल.
Right, and that is very interesting. And now we will also talk about, because whenever we talk about the iftar or table spreads, I think women have also deal with, and especially women who are interested in the laying the table spreads. So we have also taken and started this particular segment where we are displaying the tablescapes. So this particular tablescape is from Dr. Shaista Kamar. Dr. Shaista Kamar is also a blogger, and she is very diligent in the detailings and in doing the tablescaping. Let's go ahead and take a look at her tablescaping. Right, and so in a very interesting development, there is a viral video of an elephant which is seen helping in cooking. So, a video of an elephant has gone viral on social media, where elephant is seen helping its keeper in cooking. Very interesting. The video, which appears to have originated from the Thailand, has been shared by thousands of netizens. The elephant is seen stirring a dish with a spoon in its trunk and then grinding the ingredients in the mortar as its keeper cheers him on. The video has invited thousands of comments, views and likes, and I think this video is very interesting to watch because we can see the elephant which is keeping or making the food, and this is such a cute rendition of how always animals can help humanity out or humans out, and the cohabitation or coexistence of the animals and the human. So now we are talking about the Ramadan, and we've seen as a working mom, as a mom, sometimes we do have this mom guilt, and also in Ramadan it doubles and triples because we are unable to go towards our routines, and we have to cater towards our kids and children, and we might be missing on the Taraweeh or another type of spiritual exercises that we might take and amplify in Ramadan. So how to deal with that, and especially if you are living in the West, where you have to be very particular about your representation because you're living as a minority and justify your existence. So in order to unfold this conversation, I'm very glad that I've been joined by Maryam Muddassar. Assalamu alaikum Maryam, Ramadan Mubarak, and thank you so much for coming to my show.
Walaikum Assalam, Ramzan Mubarak to you as well. Thank you so much for having me again. It's truly an honor.
Right, Maryam, so let's unfold this conversation. Do you go through this phase where you feel that, you might not be multiplying or, be particular about the Ramadan because you're a mom, you have a house to look after, you have the household chores that are very demanding, or spiritually you might be lagging behind. Do you often find yourself, chasing this sort of thought that, I need to do more because it's Ramadan?
Definitely. I think it's definitely a challenge, but I've learned that planning ahead makes all the difference. Like usually before Ramadan, a week before Ramadan, I try to get into the spirit of Ramadan. I decor ahead, I pre-plan things ahead. Like for example, I meal prep ahead for my kids, and then I get them involved into the things to get them in the spirit of Ramadan as well. So the only thing I would say is just you need to plan ahead to, do things. that's what works for me.
Right, and how do you plan ahead for the Ramadan? In terms of cooking, if you will, explain it to us, and especially for our viewers who are living in these, non-Muslim countries or spaces where the support system might not be vibrant in terms of having very extensive families there. What sort of planning do you undertake to make sure that your Ramadan is smooth and you're connected to the spirit of Ramadan?
So usually what I do is I mostly freeze things. For example, I make rolls and samosas and chicken patties, and I get my kids involved in it. Recently, my daughter, she just helped me make my rolls and samosas, so that was really nice to see. And then they also helped me decorate. Even my husband, we all just get involved in this whole Ramadan festivity, so that makes a huge difference. And then sometimes I have my friends over too, and then we do these things together too, so that's something very exciting. And I always look forward to Ramadan because this is all about unity here, because again, as you said, we don't have a family here, so our friends and our family is all we have.
Right, and Maryam, obviously you're living in Canada, and Canada might not have a Muslim majority there, right? So how do you balance this month of Ramadan? Because you've also need to make sure that you are transmitting the values of Ramadan, of our Muslim faith, to your kids out there, but also have a routine, a life, living in a non-Muslim spaces, because you have to obviously, I think in Ramadan somehow for women the work multiplies, because you have suhoor, you have an iftari to make, which is an additional element into your daily routine. How do you balance all of that, and obviously explain that to the non-Muslim communities who might not have an idea of how your routine hinges around this added spirituality concept in Ramadan?
So we're actually very fortunate because we have a lot of Muslims here in Canada, and then we have like community centers, mosques to go to, and anybody who comes here from say Pakistan or Indian Muslims, they can always go to the mosque and then find people to socialize, make a community for themselves. And then in Ramadan, mosques are not just for like their mosque, like you just don't have to go there to pray. There are so many other things they do for you. There are youth programs for kids. They get them involved there. They do iftars for people. Women actually go there as like group with their kids, and then they do tarawih there. So it's very fascinating. It's so amazing to see that everybody is so connected to their roots here in Canada. So yeah.
Right, Maryam, and I would also want you to please explain to us the importance of mosque. So we have always seen that mosque is not just an area of worship. In the very early Islamic conception, it was always the place where Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was receiving the diplomats, the ambassadors. It was the area of political activity also. And I think whenever we talk about the community centers or the conception of the mosque in the non-Muslim countries, or particularly in the Western countries, they're also more than that. They're also a nodal point for the socialization. So can you explain to us, how that socialization is going on, and if someone is new in that community, how are community centers essential to make sure to integrate those newcomers into that entire community or ecosystem?
Yes, you're right. Mosques are like they're amazing place for people who are new here. As I mentioned, for example, if you want to socialize with people, you want to make your own community, especially Muslim community. You want to be around Muslims. You want to be connected to your roots. You just go to the mosque. There are so many resources there that you can like avail. Even for female, like if you feel like you can go to the mosque, you can always go to the mosque. There are some female scholars there. They could help you out there. For example, I have this friend. She recently reverted Muslim, so I took her to the mosque, and then it was an amazing experience. So yeah, I feel like mosques are not just like mosque in Ramadan, like not in Ramadan, like generally, like the whole year, they're amazing. For example, where I live in my community, they do Friday prayers here in my community center. It's like a very wide community, so but they do go there for prayers. So that's something amazing that I see here. Not just men who go to the mosque there, like I see families going there as for like Friday prayers.
Right, Maryam, and I've seen and I've observed that sitting, from Pakistan, obviously I'm living in a Muslim-dominated country, a Muslim-majority country, I would like to say, and it's my observation, and I want you to please elaborate on that, whether it's a correct observation or, there are more nuances to this observation, which is that when you're living in the non-Western countries, I've seen with Ramadan comes the Ramadan-specific decor, right? And I do feel that sometimes people or young moms or generally Muslim communities, they're chasing the idea of what Ramadan should look like, right, with the decoration and everything that is going on. Do you think sometimes, they might be taking that, it sort of becomes a fatigue or very hectic sort of a routine for them because, yes, you have to tell your kids that this is what Ramadan looks like, right? But also at the same time, they're very young to understand or, the intellect might not be that much evolved. What needs to be done in order to feel that spirit or connect with the Ramadan?
I feel like, yes, you're actually right. Nowadays on social media, all I see is like Ramadan decor and then, like aesthetics and everything. But you're right. It's not just decor. It's much more than that. What I do is I get my kids involved in like praying with me, doing tarawihs together. I wake them up with me during sahur time. So they wake up with me. And then my daughter, mashallah, she also fasts. So I feel like Ramadan is so much more than that. It's about inner peace, being connected to your, like God and then Allah. Yeah, so that's how I get my kids, be more connected to being more spiritual. So not just the decor, it's so much more than that.
And thank you so much, Maryam, for sharing your experiences living as an immigrant community, representing Ramadan, resilience, and representation of the Muslims in the non-Western, or so rather the non-Muslim country in the Western countries. Thank you so much for being on our show and for sharing your insights. With that, we are winding up our program. Until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone who is out there. Allah Hafiz.